Welcome to GTACC 2021 Tech Talks. I'm Elizabeth Sedlacek, and I'm so happy and privileged to facilitate this panel with these leading edge technology companies. And joining me today are four fantastic panel members who are here to provide spectacular insights and lesson nuggets, I would like to say, into what the future holds. So let me first kick it off with some introductions to our panel members. Let's start with Brad Sellers. Brad, welcome.
Hi, I'm Brad Sellers. I'm here, Managing Director of Infinite KM, and thrilled to be here today to help provide an overview of our knowledge management solutions and how that can help embrace the future.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next, we have Eric Wildermuth. Eric?
Hi, Elizabeth. Thanks for having me. My name is Eric Wildermuth, and I manage North American sales for Servion. Servion is a consulting company that is solely focused on the contact center and helping organizations drive automation into their customer experience.
Great. It's a pleasure having you here, Eric. And next, we have Annie Weckesser. Annie, nice to have you here.
Hi, Elizabeth. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me. I am the Chief Marketing Officer for Unifor. We are an AI and automation company located in Palo Alto.
Oh, I need to get there one day. Nice to have you here and joining us today. And we also have Ivan Kovacevic. Ivan.
Thank you, Liz. I'm co-founder and vice president of client services at Star Telecom, and we provide cloud communications and customer experience solutions. And I've been in the contact center and BPO industry since the late 90s, and I'm very grateful to be on the panel. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, Ivan, and all four of you. I'm really looking forward to all of your insights. So why don't we get started here with with our first question. And I'll start with Brad. So Brad, what technologies today enable the future to be here for your customers?
Well, for us, we're primarily focused in on learning solutions as well as knowledge solutions, and that also entails compliance. And our primary goal is enabling agents to find the right information quicker to better remedy customers' calls, etc. Now, of course, as we look at that landscape today, it's greatly changing with self-serve models and AI and bots. And we generally tie into those types of technologies. And by the time the call gets to a live agent, we're able to better service them with real-time information to help remedy the client's either problem or also move them towards a cross-sell, upsell opportunity.
Wonderful insights, and that's so true. I'm in the contact center business as well, and I appreciate exactly what you're saying. So thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on to Annie. Annie, would you like to share some insights with us?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. So AI is probably the most important and groundbreaking trend, and one that's not slowing down. I think if you look back, and Ivan can probably attest to this, but if you look back maybe 3 years ago and you mentioned conversational AI, not many people would know or understand what it meant, or the meaning would be synonymous with chatbot. But I think that has changed so much in terms of the landscape. And what is very exciting is machines and systems that can think for themselves. And at Unifor, we're using AI advances to better understand conversations. So whether that's through chatbots or voice capabilities, obviously the ability to capture and transcribe regional languages and certain accents, workflow automation, cloud. And I think next is really along the lines of empathy and emotion AI. So that's going to be the next big thing as I see it. And we do all of this really with the goal of delivering best-in-class solutions, not only for contact centers to be successful, but for them to be able to deliver best-in-class services to be able to support their customers.
Wonderful. And when you say empathy, is that for the customer or for the agent showing empathy, or both?
Both. Yeah, I think both.
Yeah, because in our world, we're more about the customer and being empathetic through the voice of the agent. So that's really interesting stuff. Very, very cool. Wonderful. Thanks, Annie. Okay, moving along to Ivan. Ivan, what are your thoughts?
So in my opinion, the single biggest enabler is cloud. And if your customer experience or CRM or LMS are still premise-based, you're missing important opportunities to leverage AI, as Annie mentioned, and processing capacity for features like sentiment analysis, bots, predictive engagement, WFM, and other functions, as well as security, scalability, reliability, and of course, remote work. which is a lot easier with the cloud solution. So, people will ask, what is cloud computing in the context of a contact center, and why is it important to customer experience? And there are a number of reasons we come across, three being the biggest drivers in terms of contact center and customer experience environment. So first off, cloud removes constraints. So constraints around capacity and location. And those are some of the biggest considerations when you're planning contact center or customer experience strategies. How do you handle the busiest day of the year, or how do you handle a utility outage? And so cloud removes some of those constraints and around the location, that you're no longer tied to a physical place. Cloud is by its nature remote, and helps facilitate remote work. Secondly, cloud reduces time to market, enabling companies and organizations to get features and functions out a lot quicker. So if you're looking to implement queue callback or chatbot or WFM or sentiment analysis, these are generally now available at the press of a button for most cloud contact center platforms, and so turning them on is a lot faster than it used to be. And finally, having a cloud solution hands off security and infrastructure management to organizations whose scale makes it impossible for a single organization to match it in terms of security procedures and teams that manage security and availability. And this drives real benefits in terms of uptime and resilience and availability. And so once you have cloud as the baseline, you can start consuming and using some of these specific technologies and functions, such as sentiment analysis, to improve your customer experience. So it's really that requirement. And sentiment analysis specifically used to be very complex and take a chain of integrations between telephony, call recording, and transcription and AI. And today it's accessible as a built-in feature of Genesys Cloud and many other solutions, and as is WFM. And so cloud contact center is the biggest change you can make today, if you have not already, to get to the future faster. Hope that makes sense.
It does. And I want to thank you, Ivan, for just clarifying, what does cloud mean? Everybody thinks everybody understands it, but you were able to, bring it into and clarify for us. So I appreciate that. So thanks very much. Great insights, really good practices, and appreciate it. So thanks. So moving on to Eric. Eric, what about your thoughts about technology in the future for your clients?
Sure, Liz. Yeah, as everyone else on the panel mentioned, there's a lot of technologies out there that we're seeing, which we find a lot of times customers are confused by it and don't know where to start. So we always kind of suggest to look at the current state of where they're at and where they really want to go, and then the requirements of their organization, because that is, as we all know, can drive a lot of decisions. But really, with that being said, we're seeing anything that enables a digital first strategy or enabling agents is something that's really important to establish the groundwork for the future. So things like real-time transcription, helping agents with next best action, automation that then hands off a task to an RPA solution is something that a lot of folks are looking at, and we're talking to them about.
Wonderful. And that is so true in terms of, it can be confusing and overwhelming.
Right.
And sometimes, clients don't want to actually talk about, they don't understand something. So really making sure that we look at all of the benefits and all their pain points in order to find a good solution. It makes a lot of sense. So thank you. Yep. Wonderful. Great, guys. This is really, really good stuff. So let's move on to our second question. And Annie, I'd like to start with you. And that is, how do customers benefit your solutions to enable a foundation for customer experience in the future?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about our conversational automation platform, because it's scalable as it's basically a human and AI model. So if you think about conversations, they're fundamentally human, and it's really the foundation for business, especially for a contact center to be successful. So when we are building our solutions, we consider it from, if you think about three concentric circles, the human, the business, and the technology side. So humans and businesses and technologies are going to evolve and scale, which is why the way that we design our platform has self-serviceable automation live agent efficiencies, high quality performance analytics that are going to support continuous improvement and growth. And our customers benefit, to your question, tangibly by being able to answer more calls, reducing customer wait times, costs, things like increasing performance, generating impressive ROI, and then probably most importantly, especially during this time, achieving high customer satisfaction scores.
Yeah, that's so critical. It's probably the number one. So you ending with that is that's a good thing. So wonderful. Thank you. Great insights. Let's move on to Brad. Brad?
For us, our platform being a knowledge solution, and it's generally more focused at the end customer service agent. So again, with all the technologies available in the cloud and depending on the matrix of technologies the client might be using at the time, ultimately the calls will eventually maybe end up with a human. And that's where our focus is really to help empower those people to make the right decisions and have that be measured and be able to get the information quicker at their fingertips for the right policies, procedures, et cetera. And then there's one other portion to that solution that's relevant is often we work in with highly regulated clients and there's a lot of compliance needs. So our platform helps provide a foundation for compliance because everything is measurable. First of all, you're able to measure communications that are being read and viewed in the contact center and make some of them mandatory or not, depending on the regulatory needs. As well, you're managing and measuring search results to see what we call the sentiment of the contact center is. So as calls are coming in and being routed, what are people searching for, which is really what your customers are asking for quite often. And that often again ties into AI and other types of cloud platforms as well to drive a foundation for the future.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I totally appreciate what you're saying when you're saying that you want to take all of the material and make sure you bring it forward as much as possible so that the agents can focus on, gathering as much of information at the front, and then they can tie into more of the complicated stuff, and they're less having to move around and look for information that is a lot simpler. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So good stuff. Thank you, Brad. That's wonderful. Okay, over to Eric. Eric?
Sure. So, at Servion, what we do is we sell a lot of different technologies, which helps us help companies understand the complexities of a contact center because we have experience with various different platforms. So what we try to do is help the organizations either select the solution, but if they've already selected it, the real value that we'll bring at Servion is being able to pull it all together and being able to make it work, because we all know that the contact center is very complex, and even that migration that Ivan mentioned, it's just not a easy snap of the fingers. So the value that we really try to bring to the table is we know what the cutting edge solutions are out there with AI and automation, but we can take that complexity to really make it work. So that's really where we're bringing the most benefit to our customers.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you, Eric. Awesome. And speaking of Ivan, over to you, Ivan.
Thank you. And much like what Eric mentioned, so as a solutions integrator and provider of cloud-based communications and customer experience solutions, we help clients by designing, developing, implementing, and managing solutions over the long term. So that's where we find we bring the most value, is assisting clients over longer term as the technology and customer experience evolves. And so we don't just implement solutions, hand over the keys, and walk away. And this, by the way, is I think one of the misconceptions around the cloud and cloud contact center specifically that Eric alluded to, is that just because it's accessible using a web browser, which all of us are familiar with using, it somehow magically allows you to hop in from a car into an 18-wheeler and drive off. It is very complex, and there's both technical and operational complexity, which Star Telecom helps with. So as an example, it used to be prohibitive for contact centers below a few hundred agents to deploy and use workforce management. The complexity and the cost of technology was just too high. And so now that function is included with Genesys Cloud. We see clients who have no prior WFM experience, but expect to be able to start using it as soon as we flip the switch and turn it on. And that's just not realistic. So that's the type of environment where we excel, and the value that we bring is bridging the technology and the process around the contact center operations. And our role is to have those long-term relationships with our clients and to help them drive and continue to drive value from Genesys Cloud and other cloud contact center solutions we provide.
Wonderful, and thank you for the example, because it's really true. When you know clients think they can flip the switch, but it's because they need to be educated and they need to have an account manager and work right through all of the steps. And I think that that's such a key point that you bring it, and it's a good example. So thank you, Ivan. Wonderful, great insights, guys. Again, let's move on to our third question, and it is: where do customers start to roadmap the best automation technological paths to the future? Let's start with Eric.
Yeah, that's a great question. We hear it all the time because so many organizations have gone through these journeys and it's failed, they get frustrated, and then with COVID, it's really forced everything to the forefront. So what we always recommend is to do some customer journey mapping and understand all the touch points that a customer might have during that journey. So for example, if you're a new customer and buying a cell phone, what is all the touch points that you'll have within the first 30 days of why you might reach out to a contact center? Or if you're an existing customer, how do you want to manage that existing customer for cross-sell, upsell opportunities or CSAT? So really understanding that journey, and then those top drivers that go into a contact center is where we recommend people to begin to kind of look at automation solutions.
Wonderful. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you say you really understand it.
Yep.
So that it drives the best solution. So great insights. Thank you, Eric. How about you, Annie?
So it is an interesting question, and similar to Eric, when I connect with customers on this topic, it's certainly a journey, and I look at it as kind of 4 key milestones if you think about it as a path. So first, foundational, then integrated, strategic, and then transformational. But it starts with leveraging AI technology that we've talked about for point use cases. So to Ivan's point earlier, envision what you want your contact center to look like. How do you want it to perform? And where are the gaps that you can identify in terms of where you are now and then where you want to go? Then I think you look at system integration with broader deployment of various functions in order to integrate kind of end-to-end solutions. But any automation, and we've all learned this, can only be successful if it's embraced from the top level, so the executive management, which drives adoption, therefore, throughout the organization. And finally, I think the roadmap, it's really important that it encourages collaboration, whether that's vendors or ecosystems partners, in order to co-innovate.
Fantastic. I wrote that all down. I'm taking that back to the camp. That's great stuff. Thank you so much. Wonderful insights, Annie. All right, so let's move on to Brad. Brad, what are your thoughts around this?
Those are fantastic insights, and I just have to echo all of them. And I think the best place to start, obviously, in the times we live in, there's a huge amount of pressure to get going. The best place to start is sort of where you're at, and then consider everything that Eric and Annie said. Because what's critical these days is there is a need to be better. And so starting and engaging with your internal groups first and understanding the mandate, digital first, et cetera, and leadership mandates will help drive adoption and move you on a technical path to the future. And I can't stress enough what Annie had said around collaboration with the other groups and make sure there's buy-in at the enterprise level or the company level to ensure everything's aligned, because mistakes do happen, and what you want to do is limit those, and you want to just be on a progressive path to increasing your technology and automation and ultimately better servicing your clients.
Right. I like that. Start where you're at.
Well, these guys covered it off so nicely.
Good stuff. Thanks, Brad. And Ivan, do you have anything you'd like to share about this topic?
So just a little bit to add, because I don't think I can say much more that's already been said, but it is aligned. I think that definition of best, we have to do some education when we engage what best is, and the best for one client is not necessarily best for somebody else. There are no, things that are 100% true or best practices that will work for every client. And so, we have to engage in strategy at the executive level, as Annie mentioned, to understand, what are the strategic positioning and goals? Is it cost cutting? Is it customer experience as a differentiator? Are there non-customer facing considerations such as employee engagement and remote work and things like that are part of the contact center build out? So and then take the overall strategy and translate it into tactical minutia and things like, do you allow a zero out option? Do you turn on queue callback? Do you leverage chatbots, and to what extent? Because there will be impacts that correlate to that corporate strategy, customer experience, and all of the other things sort of tied together. So start this discussion at the strategy level, and then work its way down to the tactical application of best practices.
Right. No, and that's a good point, that not one way works for another client. But I think you're also, all four of you are also talking not just about the customer experience, but it's also about the employee experience too, and that it has to be a user-friendly environment. In today's world, attrition is a concern, and there has to be some serious look at how do you ensure you have the right skill set to the right user-friendly technology and to the right proper training tools. And those are my three key areas that I look for, and to ensure that, and our clients do too. So I appreciate you sharing. It's not just about customer experience, it's also about the employee experience too. So thank you. All four of you touched on that, and I appreciate that. So, okay, wonderful. So the last question is a question for me, is I think it's very near and dear to my heart, because it is truly about market opportunities in the contact center. So I'd like to start with Annie. And Annie, what are some market opportunities that have presented themselves that have accelerated or changed contact center plans over the past 20 months?
Yeah, I'm not sure if any of you read the IDC report, but they recently published a market forecast that looked at the impacts of the pandemic. And they used some anecdotal stories from an industry perspective. And they looked at vertical industries, hospitality and airlines that have been clearly hit hard, but yet some new projects, right, that might prepare them for reopening in terms of, upgrading their systems, et cetera. And in some cases, they experienced an increase in traffic. But other verticals, such as government, have invested in cloud-based contact centers in response to customer demand. So I think in a nutshell, and we've probably all seen this, but the impacts of the pandemic have obviously been disruptive in terms of a large amount of call volumes, needing to address the work from home, and a greater challenge to get the customer set up and or maintain it throughout. But there's also a lot of new opportunities as I see it. And at Unifor, we've worked very closely with customers to develop and optimize solutions that meet their needs. So for example, we upgraded our use self-serve to help reduce wait times, right? People were waiting very long times. We also, and in turn, we also reduced their cost and increased customer satisfaction. We introduced UTrust, which is a voice biometrics based solution that can ensure agent integrity. The agent is who they say they are. It's not their brother who's picked up the phone while they run to 7-Eleven or something like that. So making sure that we can get, kind of a full review and really optimize the platform. In addition to our own product development, we also made 2 acquisitions, one in the emotion AI space of a company based in Valencia, Spain, and another straight in the contact center space called GTACC. So we're super bullish about the future and what the future contact center looks like and the value that innovative technology can bring here.
Wonderful. And they're great examples that you just shared. So thank you so much. It means a lot to me that you can share things that you had lessons learned and how you improved. And as you said initially from the beginning, you talked about continuous improvement was your #1 priority. And throughout the entire conversation, you've been inputting that. So, great job. Appreciate it. Awesome. Okay, let's move on to Eric. Eric, what are your thoughts?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as Annie said, there's been so many things that have come to the forefront. And what we've seen is that every company was trying to figure out customer experience or differentiate themselves through customer experience, but COVID kind of pushed it all to the forefront. The main trend that we're seeing that organizations can get ready for the future is probably the work from home, or what we're hearing more of is work from anywhere is the future. So organizations are trying to get ready for that flexibility because they know that's the key for success. So putting tools and solutions in place that help ramp up agents. So you can put in a new agent and they are easy to work from at any location, or other automation tools for your customers is something that, you know, we're seeing a lot of organizations really want to jump on right now. So those are a couple of things that we're seeing.
Great, and they're fantastic in terms of you know, understanding what took place. And like you said, COVID was, you know, no one wants to talk about that anymore, but it's true. It was a reality, and, you know, appreciate your insights. So awesome. Okay, Brad, how about yourself?
Yeah, much like everyone else, COVID really, in the last 18 months, really drove, you know, the test of your infrastructure, if I may, and the test of your enterprise's abilities to work remotely and service customers remotely. And that was very, all of a sudden, really, if you think about it, it was like all of a sudden everyone's working from home. How are we going to deal with that? So for us, we had been helping with onboarding of agents, and we have all those types of tools and knowledge tools. And we also have tools to help with onboarding of clients, et cetera. But what happened was really that people working from home had to be augmented and addressed a bit better so that that they could have the right information. But then it also became a little bit about wellness, and people working from home or remotely without a lot of, you know, going into the office contact, and how do we engage them and stuff. So those accelerated up as great opportunities, and they, I believe, will continue to be as we go into the future, because I think the model for the future probably will continue to be hybrid to some degree. You know, whatever that finally looks like, who knows, but it should always be an option to work from anywhere. And I just see that accelerating with our customers today in the market as a whole.
Right, and it is as a whole. So that's great. Thank you very much, Brad. And over to you, Ivan.
So as a telecom and cloud solutions provider, we were as an organization well positioned. We worked remotely 60% of time before the pandemic, and so, you know, the additional 40% didn't come as a big challenge because everything was already sort of built for that. But in terms of our client base, I think the biggest regret we see is in organizations that selected an on-premise solution just before the pandemic or deployed it, because that really removed the budget to do anything different. And so what they found themselves trying to do is scramble to make up for the deficiencies and to enable remote work on-premise solutions. And that really set them back in terms of customer experience, because you're trying to get somebody to log in and you're not trying to get them to be, you know, just tweaking sort of minor issues. You're working on the big stuff to get them to answer the call. And with on-premise solutions, that was a lot more challenging. And so, you know, cloud solutions, there were challenges as well, you know, call quality and internet issues and things like that. But overall, those clients were less impacted and able to recover from those issues a lot faster, and then to focus on troubleshooting or focus on customer experience versus troubleshooting these issues. And so, you know, forklifting the whole contact center operation was challenging. I think organizations are actively now looking how to prevent that from happening again in their environment. So how do they go cloud? How do they become really enabled to work remotely, which some of them are still sort of doing as an interim measure on the existing platforms. And so I think that's what the biggest change is going to be. Everybody who kind of held tight for last 18 months is going to now in earnest start looking at how do we really become operational and work from anywhere environment, because that's opened up a whole host of benefits, not just for employees and organizations and customer experience, but really across the board. So I think that's what we're seeing and what we're focusing on helping our clients.
Right. Yeah, no, that's so true. I mean, remote is the new BCP, as they say. So again, thank you, and great examples. I think we all really appreciate when you share examples. So thank you, Ivan, for that. So as we wrap up today, I would like to talk about some takeaways because each of you holds great perspectives, and this is such a big topic. So. Let's start off with some key takeaways. But before I do that, I want to make sure that all of our attendees today, if you'd like to speak to our panel members, please stop by their virtual booth. They'd be delighted to continue on the discussion. And I know they have some of their colleagues and teammates there as well. So again, by all means, they'd be more than happy to share some more insights and examples. So going back to key takeaways, why don't we start with Brad? Brad?
So, key takeaways is first of all, thank you very much for having this panel put together. These great folks. It's been a pleasure working with all of you. I think what's key is don't be in fear of embracing opportunity to better service your customers, and that may take many different forms. Technology is definitely part of it because that can knit together certain solutions that will give you a competitive advantage and ensure your customers are better serviced. And I think that the key takeaway is often that's just a conversation, and engage your vendors and engage other folks and just jump in, because it's clear that the contact center will continue to be a focal point for service and sales. And that's not going to change anytime soon. And it will probably continue to be a little bit complex, especially as newer, greater technologies come in to better service customers. So,
right.
Cheers.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you so much. Great key takeaways. I wrote them down. So thank you very much. How about you, Annie? What are some of your key takeaways for us?
I think we all talked about a lot of different technology, namely AI, and there's certainly a ton of application. We've all learned from the pandemic. Some people were caught on their back feet, some people were on their front feet from a customer perspective. But I think just to add to what was said earlier, don't be limited by what you're doing today. I think that piece is really important because there's a lot of really exciting and innovative technology out there. And I think in order to better service customers, take time to understand it. Sometimes we're kind of focused on the here and now. Take time to focus on the future and understand what innovative technology is out there to better service your customers. And I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody who is interested in talking to Unifor.
Wonderful. And then that is so true. And you also touched a little bit about understanding what their needs are and having the agents involved, with your clients and understanding what they see that can better serve the customers. To me, that's a key one. So we appreciate that. And a user-friendly environment is important too. So wonderful. Absolutely. Thank you very, very much. And Eric, over to you.
Yep. Thank you, Liz. Yeah, I would say that it's very similar to what Brad and Annie said. I mean, embrace the technology. There's a lot of great solutions out there, and often customers don't know where to start, and it can be very overwhelming. So, understanding the challenges, embracing POCs is often another way to be able to kind of determine what's best for your organization. And then, make sure you involve, like Annie said earlier, all the different executives and understand what the challenges are, because these are such big decisions. And so you want to be able to stakeholder in an organization to make sure you have successful, not only on the implementation, but post-implementation as you have rolled out the solution.
Yeah, and you drive the project plan. That makes total sense. Oh my God, I can relate. Thank you very much, Eric. Wonderful, wonderful takeaway. So thank you again. Over to you, Brad. Over to you, Ivan.
Thanks, Liz.
Favorite Ivan.
So to balance off sort of the enthusiasm around cloud, one thing that we see, and I think is a takeaway, and needs to be a consideration for organizations to find a strong partner to work with their organization and the technology of choice. And so, ironically, as cloud technology is consolidating and customer experience tools become easier to access, most of them web-based, human side of support and service around this technology for organizations using the tools can be a challenge. So the paradox is that in the on-premise model, the platform required a technical team to deploy and support. And so that deployment and support team and personnel was implied. With cloud platforms, although they're very powerful, their perception is that you can do everything on your own. And so, most tech sponsors at GTACC are the manufacturer software developers, and they will generally, particularly for solutions that cover a broad range of functions, they will sell a license, but then can't stay effectively engaged to ensure their clients drive value. And so, once clients are buying the licensing, these vendors are not as engaged. And so this is not related to uptime or feature availability, which is great on the cloud level, but it's really how do clients and how do organizations use the host of new features and functions that are coming out on a weekly basis in some cases. And so, this challenge around client experience, not customer experience, client experience around cloud is well documented. The Gartner, calls it out in their quadrant report as well, and analysis that is one place where cloud organizations are falling short. And so, that's where partners like Star Telecom come in, and where partnering with a local expert in a solution or solutions is really key. So our team's expertise in WFM, dialers, and QM really future-proofs that technology. And so clients should be ready to include that and to plan for that in their business case, that it isn't just the platform and the licensing. You need an expert, which is often going to be external, to help you continue to drive value.
Right. Wonderful. Thanks. That's a great nuggets there. And it really helps set the stage for, what clients really need to look at, for in a cloud environment. So thank you again, Ivan. So panel members, and guests, that wraps up our session today on our Tech Talk. I want to first of all thank our panel members, to Brad, Annie, Eric, and Ivan, for joining us and providing some fantastic insights. It just shows your level of expertise, and I really appreciate it, as I said, coming from a contact center environment. So thank you for the nuggets, and I'm going to take them back to my team. And I also want to thank our guests and attendees for stopping by, and we hope you found it interesting. And that's a wrap. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Take care.